Welcome back to the show. Congressman Michael McCaul joining us today, and 2 weeks to go. Seems like only yesterday we started all of this, or maybe not. But I know you have a couple of competitors. Pretty confident you'll be back.
Yeah, I feel confident. I'll serve another term in Congress. I chair Homeland Security Committee, and it's a very important time. A lot of threats out there. Probably the greatest I've seen since 9/11, so I look forward to returning and getting something done.
A lot of, obviously, the attention has been on the presidential race, and you, by the GOP nominee, Donald Trump, advised him on national security. What do you think are his chances at this point, come Election Day?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think this one's difficult to poll because there's kind of a movement, if you will, out there. So you know that everybody that is supporting him will vote, and but it's one of those dynamics where I think everybody that would be voting for Hillary is really coming out to vote against him, and so some people that may be voting for him are coming out to vote against Hillary, and it's one of those types of elections.
Wait and see. What about here in Texas? We've heard all this talk about Texas possibly turning blue because of Trump on the ticket. Any chance of that from your perspective? I
don't think that's going to happen this election cycle. I've been through across the state, and I think it's still Republican. I will say, I remember back in the day, when I first ran, and when then Governor Bush won the governorship, this was a Democratic state, and I think Republicans should be very mindful of that fact. And with a changing demographic, that balance of power can always shift.
I want to stem off of something that you were asked in an interview this morning with Evan Smith, and just talking about whether or not Donald Trump is fit to be president. You wouldn't necessarily say yes or no. Any chance of saying yes or no now?
Well, what I meant to say, what I said was, I think he's the leader that we need to lead the country at this point in time. And when you take personality off the table, this is a high, entertaining, personality type election, but the policies, whether it be taxes to regulations to national security to the Supreme Court, and he's also, our nominee has embraced our Better Way agenda that we put forth as House Republicans. So for all those reasons, I'm supporting
about Florida, Mr. Trump.
Do you think that of an against Clinton versus a for Trump in your mind?
I think, there are people who find him to be genuine and politically incorrect, and they like that. They think he's bold. I think, he's had some attacks more recently that have not been very favorable, but I do think a lot of it is trying to stop Hillary from being in the White House again. I think when I look at, again, the policy differences, she will raise taxes on the American people, and he will cut it on businesses as well. So job creation, look at the regulations, executive orders, you're going to see more coming out under her, not less. And the national security apparatus, the national defense, he wants to restore the military. It's at pre-World War II levels in many respects, and that's one of my biggest concerns is, are we safe as a nation? Is our military strong? Are we a leader? And I think he's in a better position.
Has it been hard to stand behind Trump?
This has been, with no doubt, the craziest election of my lifetime. I think most people agree with that statement. Everybody I talked to, it's been just different, and it's my oldest daughter's first election to vote in as well. And so, I tell them, look, it's not always like this.
What do you tell her? I mean, given, some of the issues that have been discussed and things that he said over the past couple of weeks. I know that you have not stood by him when he said some of these things, but what do you say to her?
Well, that I don't condone it. Yeah. And I did condemn that language, and that, but I go back to, the future in terms of the economy and national security. Nobody likes these allegations out there. The accusers that have come out, we're not sure whether that's true or not at this point in time. Certainly, her policies, as I look at her foreign policy when it came to Iraq and Syria, hundreds of thousands of people have died and millions are now refugees as a result of some of these bad failed foreign policies, destabilized the Middle East and Northern Africa. The reset button with Mr. Putin didn't work out too well. Russia's on the rise. They're very aggressive, both kinetically and in cyberspace, and so is China in the South Pacific, and also with their espionage operations.
We've heard a lot about this being possibly a rigged election from the GOP nominee. As somebody who, tackles national security, how secure is this election?
Well, I got a briefing from the director of the FBI and Secretary of Homeland Security about possible tampering with the machines. Most of them now are not connected to the internet, so that's the good news. I think what Mr. Trump's talking about is voter fraud, and that people should be on the lookout for voter fraud when they vote. And I think it also energizes his base to show up at the polls. And I think we accept the outcome absent major voter fraud. Obviously, you have to accept the outcome. That's part of our democracy.
2018, there's been a lot of speculation, specifically after the conventions, people pushing you and getting behind you to run against Senator Cruz. Any chance of that in 2018? What are you thinking?
Right, again, right now I'm focused on stopping Hillary from being in the White House. My skill set is really national security and foreign policy, and I've developed a big knowledge. And I think, if there's a national security post in an administration, that would be of interest. I think there are a lot of options on the table for me, chairing the Foreign Affairs Committee perhaps after this next term to what you've indicated. I don't think at this point in time I'm not closing any options.
Keeping them all open. Just in the time that we have left, and it always goes by so quickly, but I know that you've been on this Back the Blue tour, and just wanted to ask you a little bit about how that's been going, what you've been hearing.
It's been great. I've been going to every local police department in my district, thanking them. Police, they're on the front lines every day. They have a tough job. They've been under assault, not only from ISIS and Islamist terror-based groups, but what we saw in Dallas, Texas, where police officers were killed. And, morale's been impacted. And I think it's important for leaders to come by and say, thank you for what you do. Every day, and it's been very well accepted. I think community policing is very important. I think a lot of these towns are smaller towns, so they can be more in the communities and build the trust and respect that they deserve.
Chairman McCaul, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Always appreciate you coming on the show. Up next, we're joined by the chairman of the Travis County Republican and Democratic parties, their take on 2016 and more right after the break.